Right now we can, with the click of a button, get instant access to any book we want to read, any film we want to watch, any song we want to listen to. If we want the physical thing, we can click a slightly different button and it arrives in less than 24 hours and sometimes the same day. Whatever we want, we can have it quickly. The only thing standing in our way is money and location. What a wonderful world we live in. Right? Hang on. Something doesn't feel right. Something is missing. Why do I not feel the same joy as I did when I was younger? Do you remember when you used to go to the shops to buy something and the act of going was part of the experience? Depending on how old you are, you may not have, but this is how it worked for me. Where I lived, there was this chain of shops called FOP. I discovered this weekend that they still exist, which is pretty cool. In this shop, you could buy CDs and maybe some games, if I remember right. I'd go there with a small group of friends and spent what felt like hours browsing CD racks to find an album to take home. While there, we'd talk about albums we listened to, bands we'd like, we'd give each other recommendations on the fly and agree to buy the same thing so we could call each other on the landline later to talk about it. We didn't have social media back then, we didn't even really have mobile phones. Instead, the discovery was inside the shop with or without friends. And the buying of the album, it was just a small part of the experience. The rest of the experience was planning going to the shop, being there, then experiencing the album on a CD player or a Walkman, and then talking about it with friends afterwards. Compared to now, it was the most inconvenient experience you could have, but it was great. Even without friends, it was a similar experience with video games in Blockbuster or books in Waterstones. The only way to discover something new was to do it yourself and in person. For me at least, this doesn't really happen anymore. When I buy books, I either do it instantly and honestly without even thinking via my e-reader, or I will buy them online, and even then I hardly ever read blurbs before buying. The only experience that I get that's even slightly close to the FOP one I talked about earlier is when I go into a physical bookstore and browse the shelves. I mentioned this in a recent members video here on YouTube, but even then, when I'm browsing a physical bookstore, I'm not really browsing. I'm just beelining for the books that I recognize, that I saw online, or that are already on my TBR. It's hard to admit, but I feel frustrated at myself for doing that. But honestly, I'm not sure it's my fault. We are so used to the instant gratification of social media and online shopping that going into a physical shop almost feels like an alien experience if you don't do it very often. You almost have to be intentional about it, slow down, take it in, and actually explore, rather than dip in and out and get what you want and leave. At least for me anyway. I'm going to go out on a limb here and presume, especially if you're watching this video, you might be feeling some kind of similar way. If not about book buying, then maybe other things. It might seem like a trend right now, but there are more and more people turning away from digital media in general and seeking out more physical media and more tangible experiences to go along with them. I believe this is happening for two reasons. One, people are overwhelmed and dissatisfied with the everything all at once nature of not only purchasing products, but being online in general. Two, people miss the simpler and more experience-based nature of the past. For millennials in particular, there's a huge nostalgia factor at play, and even Gen Z is getting on board. Then of course there's science. While having access to everything you could possibly want at the click of a button sounds like a good idea, there's a reason why it feels so overwhelming. Because choice overload and decision fatigue are at play. We may have all the options we could ever want, but making a decision becomes so much more difficult because of it. In contrast, when you go into a physical bookstore, your options are way more limited, and instead of feeling overwhelmed by choice, you ideally feel a sense of exploration instead. In a previous video where I talked about whether buying books is therapy, I talked about dopamine and how it works when you're buying a book. Science tells us that a dopamine hit starts to happen before you've actually gotten to the shop. It starts when you start thinking about going to the shop. It ends when you get home and you put the book on your shelf. Roundabout. So it makes sense that when you're going to a physical store and you drag out the time you spend there, you get a much more satisfying, good feeling than when you do when shopping online. In essence, this type of shopping becomes more of an experience than a quick hit. There's a lot of value in that, and as long as it's not taking it out of hand, then I think it's something we may well be missing out on. I feel like I am anyway. And then there's the big one, physical touch. I don't know about you, but while I'm grateful for my e-reader, especially while it makes reading while traveling much easier, for me personally, there is still nothing like reading a physical book. As one of the things people miss from shopping in a physical store, it's at the top. Even buying a physical book online doesn't feel the same as it does when buying from a shop. You don't get to touch it before you buy. You don't get to uselessly flick through the pages or give it a cheeky little sniff. You don't get the satisfied feeling of putting it in your bag after purchasing and carrying it home like precious cargo. When buying online, you just place the order and then wait. It's not the same. It's convenient and you probably get a lot of variety, but it doesn't feel quite as good. So you might be thinking, well, that's all well and good, but what are you going to do about it? Okay, here's what I'm going to do about it. Well, my friend, I'm already doing it. I might be on a book buying ban, but I have rediscovered something that has brought me a lot of joy. I posted about this recently on Instagram, but I have been getting back into buying comic books, or should I say back into my love for a particular type of superhero, mutants. As a younger person, I was way into X-Men. I didn't collect any comics or really read any, but I was into the lore, the politics, the films, and the animated series. In particular, I loved Storm. I mean, come on, she's badass. My husband has recently started to take an interest in superheroes, and he was the one who dipped his toe into the comic book world. On a recent trip to Cardiff for his birthday, we went to a comic book shop, and guys, I was hooked. The combination of finding epic artwork and lots of Storm was enough for me. So I bought a few very disjointed editions, pretty much for the artwork. We plan on displaying a whole bunch of it. And before you ask, no, I'm not counting it as breaking my ban. I put together an Instagram post which explains why, and I'll leave a link to it in the description. But I'll talk about it here on YouTube soon. The reason I enjoyed this so much was that yes, sure, I rediscovered my love for X-Men, and yes, sure, the covers are beautiful, but also the experience was so much fun. Flicking through all the boxes in comic book shops, not knowing what you're going to find, pulling out very funny or epic covers and showing my husband, sharing choices and helping each other make decisions, going into multiple shops unsure of what you'll find, taking them home and talking about them more. It's all one huge experience. While I can't do that with books right now due to my book buying ban, I absolutely plan to. I want to plan a trip to a bookstore, browse sections I may not usually, take my time reading blurbs and look at recommendations from staff members. I'd like to do all of this so that buying books once again becomes more than just me grabbing what I know I want, and instead discovering something and having fun doing it, as well as, of course, reading it when I get home. But what do you think? Do you feel the experience of buying books has changed for you, or do you like it how it is right now? I would love to know, so leave me a comment. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time for another video.